Hi everybody! I have actually come up with my Christmas card design for this year, and I always do myself a little sample one first while I'm figuring out what I'm doing. But this is it. And I'm going to show you how I did this background. That'll be the tutorial part of this video. And this is just an image from the Graphics Fairy that I printed on cardstock, distressed the edges, and used a little vintage photo on the edges of it. And this is with two of the large poinsettias from Wild Orchid Crafts, and I've colored them and made a little bling center, and then I had a couple little not silk flower but fake flower little sheer white leaves with some sparkle on them. So just attach that to it, and yeah, I think this is going to be it this year. So I'm going to show you how I did this. And you need cardstock, tissue paper. You can use any color you want. I used white, and it could be new or used because it's just not going to matter. You need just basic white glue. Doesn't have to be Elmer's, dollar store brand, whatever. I also used a couple of different rubber stamps and some, let's see, which distress ink was that? That was again the vintage photo distress ink. I have some watered down Inca Gold, and let's just get started. So the first thing you want to do, have yourself a manageable size piece of tissue paper, and you're just going to crumble it up. Excuse me. And then you're going to unroll it so that you're not going to worry about getting the wrinkles out or anything. If your tissue paper has a shiny side, which this one does, you want that side down when we start to play with it. Okay, so on the cardstock, I'm just going to squirt all kinds of glue all around it. And then I'm just going to take a foam brush and spread it all over the cardstock. And this is why I crumbled the tissue paper first, because I didn't want the glue to dry while I was crumbling and unfolding. And I actually did this technique years ago, just playing around, and came across my little sample a couple weeks ago. And I was like, maybe I could do something with that. Okay, so the cardstock is completely covered. I've got my tissue paper, shiny side down, and I'm just going to start to lay it down onto the cardstock and pat. You want the wrinkles in there. And then once it's down, I mean, you're probably going to have some bubble wrinkles in there too, which is perfectly fine. If it tears, well, that happens. Take another piece, patch it. Not a big deal, because we're going to be doing other stuff to this too. I've got another chair there, and that's me working too fast. So pat it down. You might want to wear some vinyl gloves when you do this, because your fingers will get sticky. Okay. And I'm just going to hit this with a heat gun for a few minutes, and I will be right back. Okay, I'm back, And you want whatever kind of paint you want to use. I've mixed my own color. I wanted a pink specifically to go with because the angel's gown is pink. So I've got my color mix here. And even if this is not completely dry, it's okay to go ahead and do this part. But you're basically just going to paint over this entire thing. And I like the foam brush because you can pounce into areas if you need to. Now I'm doing it on a full-size piece of cardstock, 8.5 by 11, specifically because I'll be able to get 2 cards out of this. If I were doing, because I make between 50 and 60 cards for Christmas, and if I were doing it 1 card directly on the card each time, it's going to take me a whole lot longer. I'm a firm believer that once I figure out what I'm doing, and if I'm doing several, then I'm going assembly line style. So I'm just brushing this whole thing, getting the color on, and there will be parts around the wrinkles where you might not get complete coverage, so you can just, you know, pounce your foam brush right into those areas and help get it covered a little bit more. Okay, I think that's going to do me. And like I said, you can do this part before the glue completely dries. It might shift your wrinkles around some, but that is not a problem at all with this technique. Okay, but from this point, before you go to the next step, you definitely want to make sure it's dry. So, I'm going to start drying again. See you in a minute. Okay, back again. Over on the side here, I have some Inca Gold that I have a little spray bottle of water here. Try to, whoop, there we go. Little pile of paint right there, the Inca Gold, diluted down. And just a little cosmetic brush. Might have to water it down a little bit more because it's been sitting here for a little bit. And just spray it, and then I just use a little paintbrush and stir it around. And you're gonna dab your little makeup sponge in, and very lightly you're going to brush over this if you want to highlight the wrinkles. If you press down too hard and it goes off onto the flat parts, not a big deal, it's just all part of it. See, I just did it there. And you can just rub this around until you have whatever look you want. Whoop, got a little too much there. I think my sponge might be getting too flat. The really fun thing about this is that even though the design on your project or your cards or whatever you're doing. The design will be the same, but no cards will be identical because you're going to get a different wrinkle pattern, a different gold pattern every time you do this. More in this area. So the thing with this is you're not trying to cover over the pink, but you're trying to bring out highlights. And there's a lot of spots I've gone well beyond the wrinkles, and I did the same thing on the other one. Okay, so I think I'm happy with that. I'll try to lift up some of this. Get another thin spot. I'll have to make sure that's an area that gets cut off or covered. Okay. And it looks splotchy and what have you, but it's not a big deal because we're going to do more to it. And here I have a rubber stamp. This is, I can't even read it. It's a recollection stamp. And it's just text, scribbled script. And I'm going to use the Tim Holtz Vintage Photo Distress Ink. And I'm just going to stamp all over it. Just kind of randomly. Get some coverage. It doesn't matter if you get double imaging with this stamp because the writing is so small. It's really not going to matter, and you're basically just trying to put another layer on here. Okay, so that's what we've got now. And that's pretty much it as far as the background. I'm not going to finish the card. I did use a rubber stamp in the corners with some color box pigment ink. Let's see if this has a color on it. Just gold. And I did not emboss it. I just stamped in the corners just to give it another layer. And then on the poinsettias, I used Inca Gold on the bottom one, and I used Vintage Velvet Distress Ink on the top one. And when that dried, I actually brushed on some of this Artist Loft Iridescent Medium, which this stuff is freaking awesome. I absolutely love it. You can brush it straight on top of something without losing your color. You can mix it in with your paints and make your own pearl paints. It's just really, really awesome stuff. And this big tube goes a long way. Definitely a lot more economical when you combine it with your acrylic paints than buying the already pearlized paints. So that is my textured background. And I'm gonna come back and do one more very quick tutorial, another Christmas project, and I will see you all in just a little bit. Thanks so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.